She also notes that oftentimes revolutionary local councils very quickly give in to what she calls professional revolutionaries, who kind of take over the revolution and change it into partisan politics instead of this spontaneous longing for freedom that it starts with. And I was amazed at how strikingly similar, what she was describing to the situation in Libya. As a Libyan, I've longed for the day when we'll get rid of Gaddafi for many years. I've discussed even with David at times, and expressed frustrations. And I gave a lecture a year before the revolution in Sidi al-Masri Zawiya in Tripoli, in which I talked about the crisis of compassion in Libya and the abundance of cruelty, and longed for a day when freedom will come. But I was never expecting what has happened. It was an amazing springing forth of so many young people all at once, and all together in so many parts of Libya, and in ways that were, I think, completely unpredictable. It was very difficult. I would have never predicted that things would happen that way. One would have expected maybe a military coup or some intelligence officers making a kind of an intelligence coup, like what happened in Tunisia before when Zain al-Abidin came to power, but not this kind of popular uprising. And it really was a popular uprising. Everybody participated, men, women, young and old, even children, and it was an amazing thing to be part of this spring, in the sense of springing up, and it's as if in each heart there was like a kind of a spring that was compressed for so many years, and then finally there was this release of energy, and the energy of it all was just amazing, and to be part of it and to actually witness it was an astonishing experience. But as it ended, and in victory for the Libyan people and liberation, and the demise of the Gaddafi regime, and the energy was in a way spent and kind of completed its action, we began to see other phenomena that were not very pleasing to one's heart, and which are worrying in many ways. And one of the phenomena is this professional revolutionaries, parties who were historically parties, and Libyan parties are a rarity. I mean, we didn't have parties, but there were some parties, and some of them were even made a kind of a reconciliation with Saif al-Islam Gaddafi at one point, and were very reluctant to join the revolution in the first few days. But eventually, once they saw the opportunity, kind of rode the wave, and through their meticulous organization and good funding and kind of strategic thinking, and managed to start to take over in many ways key committees in the National Transitional Council, key local council committees, and began to already prepare themselves to stack the deck in a way for the election that's forthcoming. And I began to see that the enthusiasm of the young people, the aspirations, the dreams, were in a way in danger of being derailed in many ways, and maybe, to use maybe stronger language, maybe robbed, And it is interesting that if you look at the footage on television, and this is the case in the Libyan revolution and also in the Egyptian revolution, lesser extent in the Tunisian revolution, the faces that were in the revolt in the early days are different from the faces in the latter days. It's as if there is a shifting of the demography of the revolution, and also the composition of the revolutionaries. And I think we need theoretical tools and ways to reflect on this, to understand what exactly is happening. And I think Hannah Arendt provides some clues as to maybe things that can be used to understand this. Be that as it may, I was wondering what it is that we revolted against and what it is that we're seeking, by way of trying to understand what we've done and where we're going. And I think if I were to summarize what we revolted against, I would say it was three things basically. Tyranny, which is I think was a major thing. The second thing, corruption, which is extremely important as a motivator for revolt. I think it was one of the key reasons people revolted. And the third one is cruelty. People were just fed up with the cruelty of the Gaddafi regime. And if I were to ask myself today, like, is the revolution successful? Have we overcome these three things? I think that the answer would be we're only partially successful. We've overcome a tyrant, but maybe we have not overcome tyranny in our own hearts, and we have not stopped tyrannizing each other, I think, because I already see a lot of kind of pushing each other around happening at the National Council, at the local councils, and between even preachers of religion and different religious directions. If I ask the question, have we overcome corruption? I think not. This is a key area of failure, I think. Many of the most corrupt officials of the Libyan regime became actually supporters of certain streaks within the new revolutionary ranks, and are already attempting to fund parties and already own television stations. And some of the most corrupt oil officials are still there in direct and indirect ways. So I'm not so sure we've overcome corruption. And as for cruelty, I think this is where we feel the most. The removal of cruelty involved cruelty. It was not a peaceful revolution. It was peaceful in the beginning, but when Gaddafi's forces attacked the demonstrators with the anti-aircraft guns, people took up arms, and it became a cruel struggle. But that's understood to some extent, that you would need cruelty to overcome cruelty. But what I cannot understand, and what's really, I think, a great failure, is the fact that there is still cruelty after liberation. And this is happening in illegal detention centers and amongst militias. Recently, Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International talked about this phenomenon. It also made it into UN reports. And I believe that this is probably the most important failure of the revolution. And it is extremely urgent that this gets addressed. So is the Libyan revolution successful? I would say partially. Is there another round of the Libyan revolution? I think most probably yes. There will be another round, a revolution 2, because most notably the corruption thing, I think, is going to cause the most issue for people. I'm not sure that the tyranny and the cruelty will be the biggest motivator, but I think the corruption issue is going to be a big issue. And it is extremely important that we try to address these three issues without another round of violent action. And one of the biggest issues that I have today is like, how do we overcome these things without having to go through another fight? And I'm not so sure that I've got all the answers for this, but I think one extremely important thing is the role of religious scholars and theologians and preachers. There are various schools of Islam in Libya. I belong to the most traditional streak, the Ash'ari, Maliki, Sufi line. And I believe that there is a big responsibility on the scholars of the country to develop a theology of compassion and the preaching of compassion that can overcome the cruelty, most notably. For me, that's the most important, and that can overcome the tyranny and the corruption through propagating values of truth and transparency and trust and basically national reconciliation.